Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your time hopping captain, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my first officer, the man who doesn't want me to interfere with human development, Commander Brennan, the Mystic Monarch. Brennan, do you like Pennsylvania?
We gotta hurry. I love Lucy's
Today we are taking a look at Star Trek Enterprise, Season 2, Episode 2, Carbon Creek. This is a different one because this is Star Trek that doesn't deal with the Enterprise crew. That is a very rare thing in Star Trek. Brennan, what did you think of this episode going in?
Well, this is always a fun episode. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. And whether or not the poll is telling a true story or not, we have no idea. And you know what? I like that. It's
I
just
kind of
good
thought she,
fun. It's just
I
good
kind of thought
fun.
she was telling a true story, to be honest. But we can talk about that. And was it
Well,
real? Was
who
it
knows
not?
what Vulcans do when they're drunk?
Can a Vulcan get drunk?
Good question.
All right. Well, let's get into talking about the episode. So Captain Archer, Tucker, and T'Pol are having dinner celebrating T'Pol's 1 year anniversary aboard the Enterprise. Now, during the conversation, uh, Archer notes that, hey, T'Pol, I was looking at your service record and I see that you went to Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania for leave. I thought Vulcans didn't take leave. And she says, well, no, I had personal business. What kind of personal business? Like they're being really investigative of her and curious. And
Mm,
she says, why do you want to know? Just curious.
mm.
And so she's like, I'll tell you a story. Okay. What if I told you that first contact, I wanted to go to the site of first contact? And they went, no, you're way off because that was in Wyoming.
Montana.
Montana, not Wyoming.
Both in
Montana.
Montana.
Yeah, sorry. It could have happened in Wyoming, but maybe I was thinking of another Close Encounter film.
Yeah, I was
Anyway,
gonna say Devil's Tower.
I've been there. It's a really cool place. Anyway, um, so she reveals that it actually occurred in the 1900s, specifically the 1950s, the late 1950s. So um, she tells a story of a group, specifically her great grandmother,
Mhm.
named Tamir. She is a member of a four Vulcan crew that's studying Earth from orbit in 1957, right after Sputnik was launched.
It
Um,
caught their attention.
they did, it caught their attention. So there was a mishap. Their impulse manifold forced them to have crash land in Pennsylvania, but it killed their captain, leaving Tamir in charge. They send a distress signal, but after 2 weeks, they go through all their rations and everything. And remember, Vulcans are vegetarian.
Hmm.
So they got to figure something out because the idea of hunting for animals is even grotesque to them at that moment. So from fear of starvation, they disguise themselves and enter the town of Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania. And over the next few months, they integrate themselves. And as we've seen many times, they earn money at first by hustling pool. We have seen stuff like that before.
Whereas Data hustled poker.
Exactly. I was thinking of Data and poker. Although Data probably could have played pool, snooker, any of that.
That's
Anyway,
true.
so they integrate themselves into this town, getting odd jobs and working in the bar that's there. And they rent an apartment from the tavern owner, Maggie, who has a very smart son who's getting ready to go off to college and he's saving money.
Mm.
Um, so one day there is an explosion in the mine. This is a mining town. There's an explosion in the mine,
As
and
Pennsylvania often is.
Mhm. Mistral, who is very enamored with the humans, he likes them. In fact, he gets a kiss from one of them. He likes to go to baseball games and explore humanity. And interesting, we've never seen a Vulcan like this
Remington, you're
before.
crazy.
Hmm. But he says, "Look, I need to help them. Help me get a particle weapon so we can dig them out." And they're like, "No, don't do this." What if they discover you? What if? What if? What if? Finally, they agree to help him. And Mistral does manage to get them out with a phaser without anyone detecting him, and he becomes kind of a hero. Eventually, a Vulcan vessel signals that it discovered it. The signal was received by a Tellarite crew who took some time getting it to the High Command. Um, but before they leave, Tamir has kind of grown attached to this boy trying to go to college and finds out that he didn't earn enough money to save for the tuition, and the tuition is due by Friday. So she takes a train ride into Pittsburgh and sells the rights to Velcro. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Vulcans invented Velcro.
And they ate my homework.
And she takes the money that she got for selling the rights to this invention to the boy so he could afford college.
Mm.
But Mistral announces before they leave that he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay with the humans and explore more about humanity and go to the big city and then go from there and figure it out. Well, they reluctantly let him stay, and Tamir lies to the Vulcan rescuers and says, two people died. We've been here.
Yeah,
We
so
cremated them,
much for
and
the Vulcans don't lie theory.
right. Um, T'Pol, so the story ends, and T'Pol kind of leaves Archer and Tucker unsure whether or not the story was true. And she says, "You wanted a story. I gave you a story." But she goes to her quarters, and we see wrapped up in a cloth the handbag that Tamir had had during the entire story. So,
Mm.
let's talk a little bit about Vulcans here because I find it very interesting. We've been exposed many times, especially in Enterprise by this point, that Vulcans kind of view humans still as lesser than. They don't
Yeah.
think they're ready. And I find it very interesting that Mistral takes to the humans so readily and is compassionate and almost as emotional as you could expect a Vulcan to be.
Hmm.
What's your take on Mistral and his very anti-being Vulcan?
I think his curiosity is very strong. The sense of I think that maybe the fact that they launched Sputnik was something where he went, these people might seem primitive, but they've just done something extraordinary. And sort of the idea that I think he finds that intriguing. And I think that spending time with the humans, he is more open to learning new things than the rest of the team is. So yeah, I just think he's more open.
We also can get from this too that there is that sense of compassion, that it's there in the end. They helped him save the miners, even to their objections that these humans are primitive. They spend what little resources they have to find out how to destroy each other, and yet he says that they have empathy. They have the ability to learn and to
He,
grow, and we need to save them.
he also points out that that's what Vulcans were like.
Hmm.
So
And
the idea that humans can evolve.
we've seen examples before of the idea that Vulcans and humans are not so dissimilar. So it was really nice to see that empathy come out in not just Mistral's efforts, but also Tamir. And not just empathy for the boy and knowledge. Of course, the gaining of knowledge is something that a Vulcan would appreciate, but also for her friend, for her colleague, whatever way you want to call it. She lied. something again we're told Vulcans don't do, which we know better from Spock, but
Stuck a choice.
it is a choice. Yeah. And what happened to him? We don't know. I presume he lived out his days on Earth, Um,
That would have
so
been interesting.
it would have been very interesting. A
Hmm.
lot of what I love about these kinds of episodes too is it really breaks up the monotony of species of the week, encounter of the week, anomaly of the week. Like it's so different.
Yeah.
And as you said, fun. There are no real um like repercussions here. There's no this planet is at risk. You have the moment with the miners being saved, but
Mhm.
otherwise it's a look at these Vulcans and this story of how they survived a few months here.
And also, it's not a particularly important episode.
Mhm.
Just in the way the show plays out. In fact, I would argue that seasons 1 and 2 of Enterprise are kind of lacking a sense of direction, but when we get to the end of season 2, that's when things really take off. So this is an episode that's not really important, but it's an interesting little diversion.
And I think it's done better than other episodes that have tried to do this very same thing.
Mm, good
I'm
point.
thinking of the Voyager episode um, where we talked about Janeway's ancestor.
Yes,
To me, huh?
yes, that one.
That one to me is so boring. I don't
Hmm.
enjoy that episode at all.
Hmm.
It's slow paced. It doesn't feel there's no feel to it. And yet go to Deep Space Nine and what's the Benny one, the one with Cisco going into the
Oh,
other. I
yeah,
can never, yeah, I can never remember the name of
Far
it.
Beyond the Star,
Thank you. Far be
which
that one
which I
also,
love. I love.
that one in a way also feels like this.
Hmm.
We're dealing with a Star Trek episode that is not really Star Trek. It's just a story, a side story. Of course, DS9 takes it in its own direction, but it feels that same way. So it's nice. It's a nice deviation from the norm, telling us a different story, a what if. It's like a what if too. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun and was enjoyable to sit down and to give Jolene Blaylock a lot more to do, which up to this point, we've discussed before why she was chosen to be there. And the idea was to replace in the fans 7 of 9. This was nice to give her something that is not her sex appeal. It's good character development, even if it's her ancestor.
Yeah, and T'Pol is, you're right. She's a lot like kind of an attempt to be a 7 of 9,
Hmm.
but like 7 of 9, her character ends up being extremely important to the show.
Yeah.
She may have
Not
started out as kind of a sexy side character, but later became like one of the most beloved characters of the show.
right. Absolutely. And, I feel bad for Jolene Blaylock. She was not treated that well and for a long time was away
Yeah.
from Star Trek. And it was very nice in the penultimate episode of the series for Lower Decks. We got to see her return.
Yes,
And that was a
Jolene Belloc returned. Yes.
she did return. So it was nice to see her come back. I
Hmm.
very much enjoyed that. Yeah, I mean, this is just a fun episode, and
Yeah.
for me, it's a great recommendation for again something that's Star Trek that's not Star Trek. You could probably show this to me. It feels like something out of a sci-fi pulp magazine.
Yes, no good point. Of that time period, too.
Yeah, and it works.
Like something
Uh,
out
but
of the 50s. Yeah.
but then we get those obligatory. Oh, this was invented because of aliens. Velcro, Velcro in this case was invented because of
Yeah,
aliens.
even though we see the purse at the end,
Yeah.
I choose to believe that this might be more of it's a story than real events.
Mhm.
That's the ambiguity of it, and I like that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of fun. High recommendation for me. How about you?
Yeah, if you're not a particular, like, Star Trek fan, this episode I think would make sense to you.
Mhm. Okay, great. All right. Well, scheduled for the next few weeks. So next week is the release of Section 31. We are very
Oh
excited
boy.
to get to watch this. This will be our first brand new Star Trek that we will review right in the week of its release.
Hmm.
Uh, it's we're looking forward to it. I hope Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh continues to kill it, or there probably will be killing. It is Empress
Yeah.
Georgiou after all.
Hmm.
So yeah, we have that. The week after, we are going to have our movie night, a real movie night, where we're watching The Hunt for Red
Oh
October.
yeah.
I love that. Reminds me of Balance of Terror, just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah,
But I'm
it
sure we'll
does.
talk about. So when we come back in February, when we come back in February for movies, 2 weeks straight of movies, we are on to, I believe, Discovery.
Yes.
Yes, Discovery is next. So let's set up the randomizer and see
Oh boy.
where in Star Trek Discovery it leaves us.
Oh
Right.
boy.
Yes. All right. Season 5, episode 7, Ariga?
Mhm.
Ariga. Which one is that?
I
Hold on.
don't remember this.
See, like now I'm like, which one is that? Um, it is a Breen episode, I guess. There it is. With Maul and Locke in custody, the Federation is pulled into a diplomatic and ethical firestorm when the Breen demand they be handed over. And Book looks for
Mm.
ways to help Tilly, Adira, and Reno decipher the latest clue.
Dun dun
You know what?
dun.
That season 5, when we got more revelations about the Breen, that season's way better than people give it credit for. Just because we get more of the Breen.
Great.
So much so. So yeah, it looks like we're going Breen hunting later on down the line. All right. Brennan, where can the people find you?
You can still find me on X at Brennan Mystical. Threads and Instagram at Brennan Blue, but you can find me on Blue Sky at Brennan Mar, and on YouTube at Page Turners They Were Not.
You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at cingle1984. But as always, we end every episode. Oh, and live long and prosper.
Peace among us.